Something else that we'll do is we'll adjust the priority of processes. Now, what we're talking about here is when there is a conflict for system resources. So let's say we have a system and its system resources are fairly full, right? We look at our processor usage, we look at our memory usage, we realize, hey, system resources are pretty full. What we might want to do is start adjusting the priority of some processes because we might have some processes that are more important than others. Some, it's okay if it takes a couple seconds longer to complete, so we might want to lower that one's priority. Another one might be, hey, we really need to get this done as soon as possible. This is a high priority process. We need to have the best response time we can for it. So let's raise its priority. Now, the way we view this is with the PS, right screen here, PS-L. And that's going to show us our priority. And notice we're going to see two things here, a priority and a niceness. Now, the priority is default, right? We, by default, all processes start out with the same priority. So they'll have similar demands on system resources, similar when they place a demand on system resources, they'll have similar priority. Niceness is the way we adjust the priority. Now, I do want you to be aware of something here. So PS-L sets our default priority at 80 and our shows our default priority is 80 and our niceness is 0. If I do a PSL, it's going to show the same things, but notice the priority has changed. With the L, I'm missing one column, the S column, but notice that my priority now shows as 20. Now, it's not a big deal. It's just a different way of recording that number. Now, when I do a PS-L, it's showing me priorities for my processes. If I do a PSAL, then that's going to show me for all users, but it's showing me the user ID. Notice when I did the ones up here, user ID was 1000. That's my user. Here I have user ID 0. That's the root user. Now, if I don't know that, I need a way to figure that out. So if I do a PSAU, then it's going to show me my username. So the logical thing to do would be to do a PSAUL, right? The problem is that notice the error here. We have formatting, conflicting format options. I can do a PSAL, I can do a PSAU, but I cannot do a PSUL. UL are my conflicting options there. So if you're wanting to discover the username, here's what I do is I'll do a PSAU and I'll do a PSAL. So the AU will give me my username, and then I can associate that up here with the process ID. So I'm looking for my nano process, and in this case, I only have one, so that actually makes it easy. But let's say I had multiple people using nano or whatever at the same time, then I'd want to find this to find the right process ID, which in this case is 26163. And then I can come up here and look at the priority of 26163. And remember, I can use grep to filter these out if I need to. Okay, so now I've found the priority that I want, or the process that I want to do work with, and that's going to be 26163. Now, I want to change the priority, and I do that by adjusting the niceness. So I've got a couple of commands that I can do this with. Nice allows me to start a command with a different priority. So I could do nice space dash 10, and I want to do VIM with a niceness of 10. Now let me Control Z to background this and PSL. And now I'm going to see right here my VI process now has a priority of 30. Now I did the L. If I do a PS-L, you'll see that it's at 90. It's a different way of recording the same thing. Notice that the niceness factor is 10. Now this means it is a lower priority process than nano right here. So your niceness values, by the way, can range from -20 to 19. They all have a default of 0, which puts them the same. If I want to make them nicer, then I can do the renice. And I want to do renice on process ID 26132, which right here is my nano. And my command prompt was there. And I need to set my value anyway. So I'm going to set this to, let me do -n for my priority. And I can you see sometimes we'll do just the number. Sometimes we'll do -n to identify it. But I'll set my niceness value to 15 for process ID 26. Just give my number lock to work. There we go. 26132. Now, we set the process ID from 0 to 15. So PSL, and you'll see that that now has a process ID of 15, or a niceness of 15, which means VI is actually going to take priority over nano now, and everything else is going to take priority over VI. Now, which means they're going to be lower priority. They're going to give up resources to somebody else. Now, what if I want to lower my niceness? Let's say I want nano to be more important than everything else. So I want to give it a value of -5. So this is going to be my command. Renice n -15 or -5 for process ID, what was it, 26132. Now, notice that failed. Key thing here, I can make my applications nicer, which means I can increase their niceness value. I cannot make them meaner. That requires sudo permissions, root permissions. I can't change the niceness on somebody else's application. So I can't say, oh, I'm going to make your application nicer so that mine will run faster. That requires sudo permissions as well. So I'm going to do sudo, and then I'm just going to do 2 ampersand signs, which basically says repeat the last command, now using sudo in front of it. So it's going to give me, oops, it did not take that the way that I wanted to. So let me do the whole thing here. Let me go to renice, and I'll just do a sudo in front of it. There we go. $. Okay. Just realized that was supposed to be 2 exclamation points, not 2 ampersand signs. Duh. Okay. So now we've reniced it. Old priority was 15, new priority is -5. So I'm going to do a PSL, and you're going to see that my niceness now is -5, which means this now has priority over VI. Okay, so that's how we're going to adjust our niceness. By the way, I don't make up these terms. Somebody else does. That's how we adjust the niceness, which adjusts our priority. Lower priority numbers actually means they have higher priority when it comes to demanding system resources. Okay, there we go. We have gone through how to use the niceness values to adjust the priority of system processes. Remember, this only becomes a factor when we are running resource contention, when we have resource contention. If there's enough resources to go around, then it's not really an issue. But if there is, then the ones who have the higher priority, the ones that have that higher priority or lower niceness value, higher priority, get priority access to system resources.